and I make you welcome to another informative episode of Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. We are from the economic capital of Nigeria, Lagos, and my name is Henry Igwebike. Today, like always, we'll be starting off with our newspaper headlines to see all that we have, and right after that we'll be in conversation. But please do well to be part of what we do. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am very honored to have with me, joining me from Saitama in Japan, John Akirile. He is a public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, John, and welcome.
Good morning, my brother, and good morning to viewers all over the world. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so very much for your time. All right, so let's start off this morning with the first daily on our desk, and it's coming from the Vanguard newspaper. We have a laundry list of stories here, like federal government bans export of crude sets aside for local refiners as Nigeria oil's output rises 7.38% to 1.667 million barrels per day. I do not know how that is good enough news. 1.667 million barrels per day when we should have been of course expecting to see about 2.5 million barrels per day, but that's what we have for now. And of course we have on the bottom strip here PDP crisis. Udo Koyet camp logs as Anyanwu resumes office at National Secretariat. Then we have it again, the feud continue in the PDP. But our talking point for today, John, is on the issue of you have no power to order my impeachment. Tinubu tells court. A particular lawyer in Nigeria actually took our president to the courts, for violating the rights of people. Especially, he cited the End Bad Governance protest, and how that the police and the agents of the government used that as an opportunity to hold down the freedom of speech of Nigerians. Of course, the president is saying that the court has no right to start off an impeachment or to make it possible for the National Assembly to impeach him. Speak to us on this particular issue.
Thank you very much. I think the first thing we should understand is that under the rule of law, everybody has got a right. As a president, he's got his own rights, and as citizens also, they have their rights. And as humans, we have our human rights. And so in that perspective, everybody is free to approach the court of law on the basis of their own personal right. But then the onus is on the judiciary and the court of law to help with the interpretation of different rights and where each right, the limitation of each right, and that can, help other people to learn that where your right ends, that's where another person's right, starts. But the thing we should look at are the issues behind all of these things. Now, the end ban governance, what are the reasons why that protest started ab initio? Have the reasons been resolved? And so that is what I want the administration to look at in this regard, that although there is a messenger, and there's a message, even though we don't want the messenger, can we also look at the facts of the message? And the fact of the message is that there is hunger in the land. The fact of the message is that there is hardship. And that's why you have seen people who have come out in different colors all through the length and breadth of the country to express their grievances to the harsh reality on ground. And that's why they call it End Bad Governance protest. Now, that protest is, a mixture of different things. Some will say, oh, there are people that want to topple the government. Some will say, oh, these are politically motivated people. Some will say these are the disgruntled elements who lost election in 2023. But the thing that we must look at is a common factor. And the question should ask ourselves, true or false, is that, is there hardship in the country? If the answer is yes, is there, are things tough right now in Nigeria? If the answer is yes, what about the economic indexes? Are they in our favor now as a people? If the answer is yes, what about the price of commodities? Are they the same as it used to be? If the answer is yes, what about the cost of transportation from K2 to Ikorodu or from Mile 12 to Ikeja? Is it the same thing as it used to be? If the answer is that it's not the same, that means that these are some of the answers or questions that the people are asking this present administration. And I think the owners of this administration to look at how they can better answer these questions that Nigerians are asking all across the country. And so that for me is more important than saying somebody has the right to, dethrone you or impeach you or does not have the right. That for me is not the basis of this conversation. We should look at the main context and then see how we can, resolve those issues. And for me, when Nigeria wins, we all wins. And I think if those issues are resolved, even the person that has taken the president to court would gladly, bring up a case where they can settle out of court. Why? Because some of the agitations of the people have been resolved. And that's what I think this administration should look towards.
Yeah, it's very true. Interestingly, I was at the front line of that protest. I covered the protest for the 10 days it existed. And it's a particular viral video where I was interviewing a protester, and a government-sponsored talk actually came on board and messed things up. So these are realities that we saw, at that particular spot, and it's disturbing, to see that the government is not taking responsibility, for some of those things that has happened. Of course, with in line with what you have said, the crux of the matter, it's actually very disappointing. But speak to us on this issue also, coming from the Vanguard newspaper. Federal government bans export of crude set aside for local refineries. The question is, when Dangote is already importing crude from outside of the country, then the question is, the crude that is set aside for local refiners, who are the local refiners we're talking about here, if this particular story is fact?
I think the first thing we should look at, like I usually say to you, is that let's, let's bring down the message and then let's dissect the message so that we can really see, the ball of facts on the message. Now, for me, hearing about local refineries now is something that is, is new to some people's hearing, and we know that our refineries are not working, and we know our refineries. We know the Kaduna refinery, we know the Port Harcourt refinery, and then we know the Warri refinery. These are the three known refineries that we all know as Nigerians: Warri, Port Harcourt, and the third one I just skipped my mind now. But the thing is this: these refineries have never been working since they gave birth to me, and they've been apportioning money to rehabilitation of refineries year in, year out. It's always in our budget, and we are not producing anything. Now, don't also forget that there has been a discussion about modular refineries, and I saw the only thing I see here is when there is no proper communication between the government agencies and what the government is doing and the people. This lack of communication, tends to get to this conversation where we don't know something, and when we hear about it, we are surprised. So for me, this conversation might be that some of the modular refineries are the ones that they are looking at how they can get some of this crude, and then they can start refinery to settle our local or domestic requirement. So for me, it has shown that there has been no transparency in the first place. The government has not been transparent about the number of barrels that we export per day. They have not been able to tell us how much we import. They have not been able to tell us what is the local consumption of Nigerians as to our petroleum consumption as a people, as a nation on a daily basis. We don't know. And so that is a problem. When you don't know figures, when facts and figures are not known, then everybody can just come out with facts or with numbers from their head. And also, in the case of transparency, we don't know how much we are paying for subsidies. And so these are the questions, that are hanging questions that this administration needs to answer to Nigerians. How much of crude do we use on a daily basis? How much capacity do we have to refine on a daily basis? Looking at the fact that Port Harcourt refinery is on board, this is the capacity. Dangote refinery is working now. Warri refinery will also be, working. So let's have all of these figures so that Nigerians will know that as a people, we produce 1.6 million barrels per day. As a people, we need 55 million liters of petroleum, 70 million liters of diesel. If we know all of these things, that would help us, and then we can know where the loopholes are and how we can block it. So I think the government have never been transparent when it comes to this issue, and they need to be transparent, and Nigerians will know that these are the things that we need to know. The point two is Nigerians need to also know how many modular refineries do we have that are functional, and where are these modular refineries at, so that we can know we have about 10 modular refineries, and each of these modular refineries have the capacity of refining 10,000 liters, 20,000 liters, so that can help us cushion the effect of our local or domestic demands. And so for me, modular refinery is not a bad thing, but then we need to know how many of it that we have in the country, how many of it is functional, and what are the capacity that they have, so that when we are looking at the blockage or not stopping of selling crude oil to the international market, I want to sell to these local refineries. The question of who are the other smaller refineries or modern refineries will not arise, because Nigerians already know. So that also takes about the issue of transparency, accountability, and good communication.
Very, very true. Sincerity is the benchmark here, because if a government, of course, does not come with a transparency when they look at their books, it's actually a very serious problem. But let's look at Daily Trust newspaper for today also. We have the big story here. National Assembly resumes today to accelerate tax reform bill against all odds, of course. And on the bottom should be a World Cancer Day. We have become burden to our families, and that's coming from patients who are casualties of that. But our talking point also for Daily Trust: condemnations trial as ex-NHIA boss pleads not guilty. That's Professor Usman Yusuf. I know you have followed through this particular story. This is one man that has from the beginning of this administration, he has been on the neck of the president and the APC. He has criticized, he has, of course, condemned some of the policies of the government. And speak to us on this matter. Do you think this is a political witch hunt of the former NHIA boss?
I think for me is, I would not, some people have the school of thought that it's political. And let's take, for instance, if there's a protest in Nigeria today, the present administration believe that it is organized by the obedient who have lost the election in the last election. That's why they are not satisfied with the result, and that's why they are looking at every means, of getting back at the present administration. Now, if you also look at a case of when somebody is being picked up, it's a case of, who is this person? What is his political affiliation? Where does he lean when it comes to politics? Is he supporting the APC, or is he supporting the PDP, or is he supporting APGA or Labour Party? And with that, who did he support in the last election? So these are underlying questions that people always ask before they come to that conclusion. However, we should, as a people, move to a stage where we look at the facts of the matter. If there is a law of the land, have you contravened the law? Have you gone against the law? If you have gone against the law is blind to your political affiliation. But because we are a people and we have that bias, we have such issues that we always lean towards, political affiliations, and we have some preferences, and they'll tell you, when it comes to APC, your sins are forgiven. And that's why governors can, loot in billions, and they go to court with a bad guy, and they smell that out of court, and nobody is in jail. Nobody, no more amount of money is being, repatriated or refunded back to the government post. Somebody has been impeached in Lagos, and then the next thing you are saying that EFCC should go and pick up the person. And up till now, we've not had a case, in that case. So if there are issues on this case, is that when he's in your political party, nothing happens to him. When he's not in your political party, people tend to be, political victimization. But for me, is the fact that let's look at the issues so that people don't take all of these issues as victimization. So the case study and the lesson that this administration should learn is the fact that if a member of the APC is found to have, transgressed and go against the law, he should face the consequences of his actions. And that is when people will see. So if they ask you, they say, this person is a governor of the APC, he did this and he was impeached. This person is a senator of the APC, he did this and he was found guilty and he was jailed. This person is a member of the House of Rep of APC, he did this, and then, so when people see that, you start that, charity begins at home. That's what we used to say. So let that charity begin from your own part. Let that internal cleansing start. So by the time you start going after other people, they will not say that it is political victimization. But we have seen a case where, somebody's been invited by the EFCC and he could not even grant that invitation. Another person would willingly, submitted himself to the police via invitation, is being remanded. And so these are some of the things that people are saying it is not victimization. So I think this administration should not give that room for people to say that this is political victimization by using their own people as the scapegoats first, and then others can learn. Because the thing is, if you see the way the mother is beating her own child, you that you are someone else's child, you have to behave because she will beat you more than that as well. So that, I think, is what we should do. We should be a country where we see that the law is blind to anybody. The law is blind to your political affiliation. The law is blind to your status, your economic status, or social status. What the law knows is, the law says A is B. If you go against A that is B, you have to go to this or face this, and let that consequences be generic for everybody. Not that the consequences for a big man, is not equal to that of a small man. So that's the thing we have seen ourselves, and I think for me it's really a sad one. But we can also take a cue from it and learn, so that African China will not come back again and do a remix of his song that says rich man wey take money, you no go see him face for crime fighter, even if he's still a crime fighter. But a poor man that sips Maggie, I think the case of somebody, a young man that stole chicken was given 10 years, and then you have councillors and governors and chairmen who have stolen billions, and they still go around with Baba the guy and siren, and then have security and all of that. And so for me, we should come to that basis where people pay for their actions and inactions, and they have consequences, because that is the problem that has left us in this quagmire state of things. And it's so appalling that Nigeria has become a country where there is no consequences, nothing will happen. And that is the slang. Our House of Rep member says, I will slap you and nothing will happen. And Oba said it, I will kill you and nothing will happen. And so we should let people know that when you do something, something will happen. When you commit some things, let something happen, so that can serve as a lesson and deterrent to younger generations. Because as it is now, it's a free for all, and when it's free for all, it's going to be more chaotic and more problematic for all of us people.
Very, very true. And for us to have this work, it has to start from the top, because if those at the top are able to work with what you have just said, then it's easier for those below to equally follow suit. But let's look at the Punch just before we leave on our newspapers today. Cyber terrorism. Court remands 42 Chinese, Filipinos, others, and with $222,000 for feature. Do you think this is a welcome development? And the question again is, my second question is, how is it that Nigeria is now a haven for cyber terrorism or cyber security, terrorism related issues, while we're having foreigners come into Nigeria and use that as a launch pad for what they do? When did we get to this level?
I think how we got to this level is the fact that we started as a country that there's no consequences for our actions. And that is the basis of the beginning of the end for us all. So the first thing that we should do is that there should be consequences. Now, all of these Chinese and Filipinos or whatever foreigners from whichever national or nationality they are from, you can never try that in their country. You can never go to China and say that you want to do anything for anything. You can never do that. You can never, I repeat. And so, and if you're able to do that and they get at you, my brother, you are going to be on their major news for more than 2 months. And they keep repeating that clip for the whole country to know that certain person from Nigeria has done this and this and that. And that's why that perception is so large globally that Nigerians are fraudsters. Why? Because they take it up. They blow it up. And they keep reminding you as Nigerians. And that's some of the shame that some of us have to face on the global stage, international stage. Now, the thing is, these ones that have been that have been apprehended and they have been found guilty should also face the same thing. Number one is that they should be prosecuted in the country. That's one. Two is that all the media houses, all the newspapers should have it on their headline. As a matter of fact, a front page of the tabloids and magazines. And that these nationals, these people, are putting boldly, the Filipinos and Chinese, that's the same thing they do to you. They do to Nigerians or Africans. But in our own case, we don't say all of this news, and we make them feel as if we are all humans, for God's sake. And so if anybody is doing something that is wrong, don't keep it. But the other thing again we should look at is, are there no compromises from our own political leaders? Are there no compromises from the agencies of government that should checkmate all of these actions and inactions? Now, you cannot set up a business in China without having a physical location, without going through rigorous means of documentation. I mean, the process alone will discourage you. But in our own case, it's free for all. Why? Because at every junction, there's a bag of money you need to drop to settle some people. And when you settle them, they let you go. Now, when they let you go, that's why the Chinese and Filipinos can have the effrontery to do that in our country. Why can't they do that in their own country? The man who is a Chinese knows that if he's caught in his country, the penalty is severe. He knows that. There's a family tree that's going to be destroyed. And so they're going to publish your name and say the whole of your family, that this person, from so family, is a fraudster, and that tarnish the lineage of generations that have been before you. And so they know all of these things. That's why they have family tree. They know all of these things. And so for us as a people, we have turned ourselves to a dumping ground where everything goes. And the thing is, because you check it out now, they have security agencies attached to them. They have police that is guiding them. You check it now, who gave the licenses for them to operate what they are operating? Who gave them, so these are the things you have to say. When they come, you cannot come into Japan now and say you come into Japan today and then tomorrow you want to start your business. It does not work like that. They have to do their own background check, go through rigorous means, and that will, we even discourage you from doing business there. But in our own case, because of waiting I go chop, man bribe man, man collect egunje, and that is what has led us to this. And I said it is because there is no consequences for our actions. Now, in other places, if you are found guilty of taking bribe, do you know what happens to you? Either they give you death by hanging, or you resign. But in our own case, you still argue when you know that you are wrong. You still argue. You still say, I'll get the best player. Best player for what? When you have done something that is wrong, that you should be in jail. And the last thing again that I've said is we don't have all of shame. Other countries have their own all of shame. Maybe we need to start having all of shame in Nigeria, where sculptures can be, where you can take children from the elementary stage, grade 1, primary 1. Let's go for excursion. Take them to all of shame. Show them these are the people that have done these things. Now these are foreign nationals, these are Chinese, so that they understand that crime and criminality is not only synonymous to Africans. Africans, we are humans. Europeans, Americans, Asians, they are also humans. And so the same way you have fraudsters among Nigerians, you also have fraudsters among Asians, you also have fraudsters among Europeans and Americans. After all, they brought education to Africa. And so the education they brought to Africa and Latin Africa. So it means that they are the first fraudsters. In fact, they are our forefathers when it comes to fraudulent activities. And so they taught Africa how to do fraud. But now is the fact that Africans, understood the rudiments of being fraudulent. I'm not here to guide to promote that. But what I'm saying is that Nigeria should look at the internal mechanism. What are the NDAs, the governmental agencies that give these licenses to the people? How is the process of getting them those licenses? The money that they have to pay, are they paid everything? Because if you ask these nationals also, they will tell you that they have collaborators. Who are the collaborators? The collaborators are Nigerians, not Filipinos, not Chinese. And so the collaborators are giving them that privilege and tell them, don't worry, in Nigeria, nothing will happen. We can do it in Nigeria. That's why they can rent an office in Victoria Island, a full 7-story building office, and then make it, a Yahoo zone where they even recruit Nigerians. You cannot try that in Japan. You cannot try that in Asia. You cannot try that in China. You can never do that. But that is happening in Nigeria. And so that's why I say to you that no matter what happens, our governmental agencies also have a hand in it, because those are the licensing that give the license for them to operate in businesses. And those are the things that we need to checkmate, so that at this time we can start putting Nigeria on the right track. I said to anybody that cares to listen, Nigerians are the best people all over the world. We are resilient, we are brilliant, we are innovative, we are energetic, and we have this never say die, never say never spirit. And that is one thing that every Nigerians globally should take to the bank. Is more than what money can buy.
Very, very true. That is a very good conclusion on that particular matter, because just like you rightly said, if there aren't people there to help them, they wouldn't ever have made that possible. Renting a prestigious place in VI is actually something that should be looked into, and we just are talking about just one pocket of criminals. Who knows how many more are in other states in Zamfara? Those equally there, digging solid minerals there in Nasarawa and so on and so forth. So it's a very big issue that we really need to look at very closely. Thank you so very much, John Ekerele, for being part of our show today. We truly do appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and also to let you know, people, John will be here to take us on our main conversation, and that is when we return. Nigeria Labour Congress NLC suspends a nationwide protest. FG plans review. That in a bit. Please don't go anywhere.